Welcome viewers, this is Winch here. I want to thank you for all your support and your patronage through my transition time here. Just want to announce that this will be my final video for a indeterminate amount of time as I transition with my shutting down my internet, my current residence, moving to my new one. And as you know, I'm getting the Google Fiber installed at my new residence, but I'm not sure exactly where I'm at in that list. So hopefully it's not too long of a delay. I'm hoping like early June I can get it set up there, although I don't have confirmation on that. But before I go, of course, I will continue to bring you content and footage once I get established and my new roots take hold. But before I go, I felt compelled to make a comprehensive, kind of a cohesive message here in terms of what I want to see in Battlefield 4. It's not really a wish list. It's more of a professional synopsis, criticism, recommendations. I'm trying to make this a little more straightforward and organized and comprehensive. And I, of course, welcome your guys' input. I'll occasionally hop in on this comment board on this video and answer your comments and post your comments, your suggestions too, because believe it or not, the DICE people, developers, they actually do play this game. They actually do watch YouTube. And they actually take heed to what your comments are. A lot of these guys are high-level ranked players in that game. They actually play what they develop, and I think that speaks volumes for what the game can propose. And of course, we know right now they're very busy, not only developing Battlefield 4, but dealing with this whole cyber attack thing going on the PC side. I mean, that's an absolute catastrophe, and you know, sympathize for you PC guys having to deal with that, because I hopped in a game the other day trying to again test out my PC loadout and troubleshoot this problem. One final attempt, it still didn't work, but even I had problems getting into game lobbies. But let's continue on to what this video is going to be about. Of course, I'll be showing some gameplay here. I'm not really going to show gameplay of the specific issues I'm going to talk of. You know, forgive me, that will take a little more time than I have. I really just want to focus on these tiles and these. I'm going to break down each topic into specific categories, and from there you can just watch some gameplay here to kind of satisfy that visual stimulation that you need to hold your your attention. But pay attention to the summaries as I'm going to try to break down what I recommend and the issues I see in Battlefield 3 and what I would like to see, how they're corrected or addressed, and kind of broaden out a little bit more to just a big topic and stuff I would like to see it maybe is unique to Battlefield 3 and the progression of the series. Of course, we can't deny Battlefield 3 has been a great game. Obviously, I can't speak enough about how much I enjoyed this game. But more than that, I think it's really been how the game has progressed and how they've continued to tweak the game. Some improvements, better than others, but I think for the most part we can agree that the finished product here, or the product has grown from its infancy to where it is now through all the numerous DLC contents, is better than where it was in the beginning. At least I can argue that. With that being said, let's get into the first topic where I'm going to categorize each topic into just a broad category. And the first category is going to be interface. What do we want to see in Battlefield 4? Or at least what would I like to see? Some of these things you guys have heard, so these are a collection of things I've heard that are pretty popular out there, as well as I've added some of my own things in here. But spent a lot of time with myself just kind of spending introspective time thinking about Battlefield 4, what I would like to see personally. So again, some of these things you may have heard, but in dealing with interface, the first thing I would like to see, and I think I've heard this too, is, and I've said this in my previous video, is we need to have a privacy setting option. Just basically, not the ability to go offline, but kind of how, like on Skype or whatever, you can just say you're in offline mode, or on the PlayStation Network where you can say you're unavailable. So basically, people can't track you down, and you're just kind of like in incognito mode for a self-determined amount of time. It's just a simple option you turn on, you turn off, and that basically tells other players out there, you just want to game alone a little while online, and maybe you don't want to solicit the help of your fellow teammates or people that you know. You just want to chill out for a little while and just play by yourself, join a random lobby, not have to worry about people pursuing you or joining up on you. Maybe you just don't want to play a serious game. It's kind of, just those times where you just don't want to have that serious competitive experience. You just want to pass some time and veg on the couch by yourself for a while. I think that'd be a good option to incorporate into it. The next topic under interface I would like to address is This is something big I think of, and I really haven't heard many people talking about, but I like the ability to customize each map in terms of the game modes, like Conquest Large, Conquest Small, Conquest Assault, Capture the Flag, whatever the game mode is, I would like it to be available in just about every map. For example, a good example would be like, take Armored Shield, for example. We all know in consoles that's a huge map with 5 capture points on Conquest. Well, as a console player, I would like to be able to tailor the size of that map to just certain positions, like positions maybe Delta, Charlie, and like the air base. So basically, that would essentially eliminate position E, position A, I believe. Excuse me, not position A, was it position E? And yeah, position A, excuse me. So eliminate those 2 positions and maybe bring the bases closer in, or just block off all that area, basically no man's land, or kind of like a safety zone where if you enter it, you'll suicide within a certain amount of time. Still have your bases out there, and that would essentially just concentrate the action within that corridor of the map. Now, of course, the developers would have to take into account certain maps not having that option, or they would just have a set area that you could transition to where the person doesn't have complete control over what positions they do. Like, for example, if you were just doing Metro on Battlefield 3 and you said, I only want position Alpha on Conquest, I mean, that could kind of turn into a slaughterhouse. You might have some issues with boosting, or just too many, it would restrict the size of the map too much. But this has a broader category of the developers could possibly tailor the sizes of the maps to just maybe a select few positions as opposed to 5 or 6 positions, particularly on console. That would help us out. And again, I like seeing all game modes available on all maps. For example, if I want to play Capture a Flag on Armored Kill, game maps on Armored Shield, or Conquest, or Capture a Flag on Operation Metro, I'd like to be able to do that. So I like seeing those unique game modes available on all maps. So customization in the map area, I think, would be a great option to expand the possibilities for that. The other option, or the other category here I'd like to talk about, is I don't like the third-person kill cam. We see this teabag thing all the time. It's just really annoying. A lot of times when I'm playing my game, I'm critiquing my own gameplay. I want to see how that enemy got me, and I want to see that from their point of view. So I would like to see a first-person kill cam instead of this third-person thing, because that'll allow me to improve my gameplay. Maybe there's something I'm doing wrong, or I'm seeing consistently in terms of how players are taking advantage of my weaknesses. And seeing that from a first-person perspective would be greatly beneficial. You could also probably identify if it was a lag-related kill as well, and say, oh, that was lag, because that's not what it looked like from my end. But of course, this option would not be the case in hardcore. That would be kind of that would degrade the experience of hardcore if you could always see from first-person perspective, because you can identify that person where they're at. That would give away their position. So not in hardcore. Keep that as a third person, I guess, in hardcore. Final thing on our interface I'd like to see is, and a lot of us have talked about this, is a spectator mode. That would allow us, maybe in competitive gameplay, to oversee rules and good for filming and that kind of thing. So spectator mode would be good. So in summary, under interface, I would say privacy settings, ability to customize maps, so map customization, first person point of view from the kill cam, and spectator mode. Moving on to the next category, the broad category improvements I would like to see is gameplay. Here I'm just going to talk about, in terms of specifics of everyday gaming, what you see on the battlefield all the time. And the first one I'd like to talk about is bunny hopping. We all know bunny hopping in Battlefield 3 allows you to progress through the map at a quicker pace if you occasionally hop. It's particularly cumbersome when you're in close range engagements and a guy's bunny hopping all over the place. Makes it more difficult to shoot, and obviously they're moving quicker. We all know this is unrealistic. If you're jumping around in real life, that's going to hinder your movement speed. So I'd like to see a reduction in the player movement speed as a result of bunny hopping. Also, I think that has some play to do with the hit detection as well. So I would recommend that bunny hopping be all but eliminated, reducing the speed at which you jump. The next thing is head glitching. We all know what head glitch is with when essentially you're taking cover behind, let's say, a dumpster, for example, and you're shooting over it. So when you're shooting over that dumpster and you're looking at an enemy player, you see essentially their full body, whereas they only see a little sliver of your head. Well, that exactly is not really fair to the guy standing out there, because how are you able to shoot and only have a little bit of your head exposed? It's just not, the animation's not very, it's not very balanced. So I would like to see that eliminated. That's something we've all agreed on, to where you have more of your body exposed behind cover, but cover's still effective. Next thing is turning down sun glare. I personally like sun glare. I think it's a realistic aspect. I've mentioned this before in my videos, how I use the sun at my back. For example, if you're on Caspian border on Battlefield 3, you're on position Charlie, you're looking towards position Bravo. I use that sun at my back as a visual hindrance to an enemy player that's looking at me from position Bravo. I take that account in my strategy. A lot of people argue that it's a little too much. Again, I've just heard it all the time out there, so I'm going to throw it out there that sun glare needs to be reduced. Next thing is eliminating the audible voices to your enemy players. I don't know how many times I've thrown out a support kit behind a wall, for example, and there's an enemy player not far from that. So when I throw out my ammo kit to a fellow player, and he says, "Here's some ammo," and now the enemy player has heard that, they can basically know, if they weren't aware in the first place, that they've just been alerted to my position, and now they have a tactical advantage on me, whereas I don't know that they're there, and then they come and take me out. I think only those audible white noise, if you want to call it, should be available to friendly players, because that does actually help. When people say, "Here's some health, here's some ammo, I need some ammo, man, give me some ammo." That, to me, I don't know how many times I'm, as a big support class player, I'm guilty of doing it. But I fail to throw out ammo all the time, so whenever I hear a person yelling that at me, it's like, "Oh yeah, dumbass, you need to throw out ammo." So that helps me, but again, it should not be audible to enemy players. I don't know how they could accomplish that, but that's something I would like to see. Next thing is I would like to see is a friendly grenade icon. A lot of times I know in the patches they try to address this, but it never really got done in Battlefield 3. But in Battlefield 4, please, let's see some kind of flashing emblem that indicates a friendly grenade as a blue grenade or a green grenade, and an enemy grenade as the opposite, a red grenade or something like that. But I don't know how many times we've all been, stockpiled around a corner and somebody throws a grenade and they misthrow it and it pops down on all us and all of us disperse because we think it's an enemy grenade. Anyway, it's really detrimental to the gameplay, so we need to have that. That'd be an easy fix. The final item I want to talk about under the gameplay category is suppression. Now, like it or love it, it's a controversial topic. Personally, I don't like suppression, but I understand the need for suppression. And here's my argument on suppression, guys, so hear me out here. I don't know, there's a great article out there that was written in Esquire magazine, and it was an actual interview with the actual Navy SEAL that shot Osama bin Laden. And it was a really good article about this Navy SEAL's experience, his military experience. And anyway, long story short is this man has seen a lot of action, okay? And from his personal standpoint of being on the battlefield, he says that he has seen so much fire, he has received so much fire, enemy fire, he's been in so many battles, to the point where he is hardened so much in terms of his own physical response to taking high stress scenarios, bullet fire overhead. He says he's been behind walls so many times and bullets whizzing overhead that it doesn't even faze him. He doesn't even get an adrenaline rush from him anymore. That's part of the reason why he was leaving the military. And my point being here is that if you're playing Battlefield 3 and you got a supposed battle-hardened veteran, why is it when a bullet flies over your head that your accuracy goes to complete nothing? You can't see anything. It really takes an extreme example of what the perception of suppressive fire would do to a battle-hardened person. Obviously, in this case, in this real-life scenario, he's saying that it doesn't faze him at all. Bullets just go overhead. He's just like, "Okay, yeah, we're taking fire here. What do you guys want to do?" And they address the situation. So my analysis on this is that suppressive fire is not accurately portrayed in Battlefield 3. And how I would like it seen, I understand the concept of it, But how I would address it is I would make suppression only prevalent on certain weapons and higher caliber bullets, like the 7.62 millimeter bullet, like in the high caliber support weapons like the M60, the Pescheneg, the Recon class, obviously the 50 caliber M98 sniper rifle. Those types of weapons, the Scar H, the big heavy 308 rounds, something like that, okay? But how I would portray it in the game is that I would not have what we have now with this blurry vision and stuff. To me, that's the number one reason I don't like suppression in the game, other than the accuracy effect, is it hurts my eyes physically. When I'm playing the game and my screen goes blurry, I just close my eyes. I hate it because it literally pains me to look at the screen when it's blurry like that. So how I would address it is I would essentially make it like a brief flinch reflex, and that being that your screen would go blank for like not even half a second, and that would only occur once during the initial suppression or something like that. So essentially I would just make it like your screen goes blank just for half a second as your soldier is flinching or reacting to the bullet going overhead, and then instantly your vision's back and you have full control of your weapon, your accuracy. And if you're receiving continued suppressive fire over your head, maybe there would be a certain frequency in which that would happen, to where your screen would go blank. But again, you would still have full control of your weapon. Your weapon would stay where it's at, or possibly maybe your aim would go away for that certain amount of time. Anyway, I'm kind of getting long-winded here. Essentially, it would be a reduction in what we see now in terms of the suppressive fire. Let me know what you guys want to see about that. I understand that's a controversial issue, but in summary, moving on to the gameplay, I kind of went long on that, but there's some things in there. Again, bunny hopping is going to be addressed. No more head glitching, or essentially showing more of your body during taking cover, or an accurate representation of your body when you're taking cover. Turning down sun glare, eliminating audible voices to enemy players, enemy grenade icon, and suppression reduction, or as I mentioned it, a flinch reflex. Alright, so moving on to the next category, let's talk about class specific and or balancing, okay? The first thing I would address with class specific balancing would be the Recon class. And that piece of equipment in particular being the quote respawn beacon. If it is in Battlefield 4, I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but if it is in Battlefield 4, I don't like the parachute option. I think it results in just more headaches than it's worth when people are constantly parachuting in, glitching on tops of roofs, blowing out buildings, basically making the Recon class completely inaccessible. Then you put a respawn beacon inside that glitch spot. Next thing you got a whole squad up there that's completely invulnerable, sniping away, and they're not playing the objective, and it drives me nuts. On Team Deathmatch, I see it all the time on Gulf of Oman. It just really degrades the experience in the game. Now, I'm not saying completely eliminate the respawn beacon. Well, I guess I should word this better, is that you would just eliminate the parachute option. So you can still have the respawn beacon in certain corners of the maps, but it's all on attainable levels, and your team can only spawn on the respawn beacon. They won't parachute in, just like when you put it inside a building, for example. But anyway, so no parachute capability with the respawn beacon. The next thing is countermeasures on aerial vehicles, the helicopters and the jets. I think those vehicles should have to return to base to restock their countermeasures, whether it be the ECM or the flares, assuming that's in Battlefield 4. I don't think it's fair, and I think it overpowers the jets, for example, when they can just continually launch flares all day long, and you can't ever shoot the thing down. So forcing them to return to base would basically mean that that would kind of reduce their effectiveness on the prolonged effect of their effectiveness on the battlefield, and it would give you some time to kind of reprieve from them onslaughting you all the time as they go back to the base to restock their countermeasures. Now, in terms of their offensive capability, I'm not so sure that you need to restock the rockets and the air-to-air missiles, stuff like that, but you could take into consideration. You could probably argue that that'd be a good time to, if you're having a return for countermeasures, you should have to return as well for rockets. That would be the argument made, and I think again that would fall in line with realism, and it wouldn't nerf the vehicle too much, but it would give you a fighting chance on the ground. And also, you might be able to argue if that is the case, that you could all but eliminate stingers on the ground and replace that with maybe just a SOFLAM javelin combination. Because I know a lot of the aerial vehicles out there are really susceptible to stinger fire. So you could all but eliminate probably stingers at that point. Or that might get into my next topic about, well, the wild card option, where you can make that a class-specific unlock in the engineer class offering stingers. We'll get to that in a little bit. I don't want to spoil that for you. The next thing I want to talk about is the AC-130, my personal favorite vehicle in the game. I know the community hates it, but I think it's an absolute masterpiece myself. It was a little overpowered in the beginning with Rush in particular, but I'm glad they addressed the respawn frequency with that, and I think that they should retain that in the next Battlefield 4 if that vehicle is coming back. I hope it is. But what I would like to see them do with the AC-130 is make it available on every Conquest map, and I would like them to bring back the thermal vision, because I think it's really weak right now without that. We can't. I think nobody can argue that vehicle is overpowered on Conquest at all. I think it has a nice dynamic to the battlefield, and everybody loves to go capture that position to get in that vehicle. I think everybody loves being in it. They just don't like being on the receiving end of it. So man up and do something about it, you know. The next option or class-specific balancing is assault class. We all know they have the best assault weapons out there for infantry combat, and likewise, I'm not going to change anything about assault class. As the classes are, all this talk about Battlefield Bad Company 2 and, you know, the medic class having the big guns, forget about that, guys. They got it right in Battlefield 3, I'm convinced. All you need to do to balance the classes is in the assault class, yes, they have the best weapons in terms of accuracy, range, all-round capabilities. Allow them to keep having their assault weapons, but just reduce the amount of the revive points. If they do have defibrillators in Battlefield 4, which I'm pretty sure they will, let's cut that in half. Instead of 100 points for a revive, let's cut it down to 50 or 25, something like that, okay? They still have their medic kits, all that. They still get 30 points per heal for that. That's all fine with me. I think that would pretty much balance the class in terms of them not being MVP every class because of mass revives. Moving on, I guess, I don't know if this is really, yeah, I guess this is a balancing issue. Let's increase the damage from vehicle-mounted machine guns, like the 50 caliber machine gun on the tank. I want to see an increase in all the damage from the anti-air ground vehicles as well, like the Tunguska. Let's bring that back. That should be killing infantry really quick. Those Gatling guns should be shooting down vehicles. The AC-130 anti-air Gatling gun needs to do more damage against jets. I mean, if you're getting hit by a minigun, you know, like on the Venom, for example, buff that too. That should be shredding airplanes. That should be shredding infantry. That should be a devastating weapon on the battlefield. And nobody uses those weapons because they don't do anything. You really have to get consistent fire, and if you're flying around in a helicopter, you know, at a high velocity, it's really hard for you to destroy infantry with those guns, and that's not how it should be. So let's increase the damage of those items. That's about all I have to address in terms of class-specific balancing. So in summary, eliminating the parachute capability, the respawn beacon, helicopters and jets have to return for flares and countermeasures, possibly even offensive capability weapons. AC-130, bringing it back on all maps in terms of conquest as well. And assault class, 50% reduction in revive points. And finally, increasing the damage from vehicle-mounted weapons and anti-air vehicle weapons as well. So not too much, as you notice, as I'm mentioning here, in terms of class specifics. I think engineer, support, recon, I think they're all pretty much good in terms of what they do on the battlefield. Again, appreciate your guys' input. Let me know what you think on the other classes. Next category before my big one will be customization. Customization, what we want to see in Battlefield 4. Okay, well, don't jump on me too much here, guys, but I think we can take some items from other games out there, we all know what, but there's a couple games out there, big name games, that did some things right, and no need to mention them, but in Battlefield 4, what I would like to see is the ability to customize your knife. Make it a Bowie knife, make it the ACB knife, change the blade, handle, put something on there. I like the idea of putting on some kind of stock logo or a clan emblem or some kind of thing that you make that personalizes your weapon. And I would like that translated into not only your knife, but also your weapon. So that's my next category. I'd like to see customization for weapons, and I would like to see it similar to what we saw with another EA game was Medal of Honor Warfighter. That's one thing they got there nice. It was beautiful layout, the way you could kind of physically hold your gun, change the camo, change the barrel on it. Then that's where you did all your pre-setup. Maybe they could do that in the pre-lobby and then have an in-game lobby ability to re-customize your weapon as opposed to that, because that was a little cumbersome, but it really looked cool, like in the lobby, messing around with that, playing around with it. So ability to adjust your weapon and load it out with your sights. You put a logo on your gun, put a neat camo, some kind of emblem, clan emblem, what have you. I think that'd be cool. All of us love that kind of stuff, and we cannot argue in Battlefield 3 that we certainly have a huge lack of that. So bring that in, weapon camo, also soldier camo too, and that's a big advantage on the battlefields, having the right camo. I don't know how many times the guys run around with the wrong camo, sticks out like a sore thumb. So customization in that regard. Summary: customize knifing options, customize your weapon camo, loadout specifics, either your magazine, your barrel, your sights. I want to see sight changes as well. There's so many holographic sights out there with different sight reticles. We should be able to customize that. Finally, weapon camos, soldier camos. That wraps up for customization. This video is getting a little long, guys, so let me get to my final option under categories, and this is a wild card, guys. This is the game changer. I've said this in past, and I've taken a lot of flack for it, so I've changed my analysis on this. Okay, what if? Let me propose this idea to you guys. What if we had each class in this game? Let's assume it's the same in Battlefield 4. We have Assault, Engineer, Support, Recon. What if each of these classes has a 3-tier score-based skill unlock that's accomplished by completing your battlefield role? Capturing objectives, shooting enemies, spotting enemies, etc. Obtaining points is what I'm getting at. And let's say that each class has 3 of them, and the final skill is the most lethal and requires the highest skill point attainment. For example, let's talk about Assault. Let's say you're out there, you're primarily an anti-infantry role. You're shooting through guys, you're reviving guys, you're playing your role, and you're playing objectively. As you accumulate points, you get to the first tier that you unlock a specific, I don't know if perk's the right word, but you unlock a specific skill in which you get higher damaging ammo. Let's say it's a 3-clip limit, and this ammo does a certain percentage more damage to your gun, allows maybe it's a little higher velocity round that does more penetration power or does more damage to your enemy. As you progress and get a few more points with that, you basically can equip body armor, like a bullet resistant type of flak jacket that will reduce your damage that you receive from your enemy. And let's say you can see it right down in the lower right hand corner of your screen, what percentage of that body armor is left. And as you accumulate just a few more points, you get your final tier unlock. Let's say it's that you obtain a flashbang or a set of flashbangs. Now, I hate flashbangs in, let's say, Call of Duty. Drive me nuts. But hear me out here for a second. As the Assault class, you should have something that allows you to take on quite a few people at one given time. And I think having a flashbang, if you're coming up on a corner, let's say on like Grand Bazaar, and you have the enemies up in a tunnel, let's say you have the ability to shoot a flashbang either from like an M320 mounted launcher that you unlock once you get to the skill point. You got 3 flashbangs, you shoot 1 in there or 2 in there, and that should have an effect on quite a few guys. And it stuns them visually. Their screen goes white for say 5 seconds. Allows you to run in there and become quite a formidable force. And I think that would allow the Assault class to be more aggressive when dealing with multiple enemies, because we all agree that having 30 rounds in a clip, you just can't do much against 4 or 5 guys. So again, I think that would be a game changer on infantry combat. So those are the 3 categories and tiers of unlocks I would recommend for class specific amplification of the Assault class. Next, let's talk about Engineer. Let's say your first unlock, once you get to a certain amount of points that you attain, is some kind of anti-vehicle track charge that you can put down that would instantly destroy a vehicle or tank if they ran over it. Kind of like a mine, but let's say it's a longer track area to where it covers like a whole road. So if a vehicle ran over that, that's it. That vehicle's done. The tank's done. The next attribute or tier unlock for engineer, I would say, is some kind of maybe enhanced vehicle attribute. I'm not really sure. Again, I'm playing around with this idea for engineer. This is the class I'm a little bit weak on in terms of what I would do for these tier perks. But making, maybe allowing you to have a multiple attribute perk to your vehicle, like let's say reactive armor and added maintenance, something like that, or reactive armor and autoloader on your tank, so you can shoot quicker and you have reactive armor. Anyway, something like that, either for a set amount of time or until your vehicle is destroyed. Finally, the last attribute would be, and of course that wouldn't work in like a TDM type scenario unless you have vehicles there. But the last thing I would do is like an automatic, kind of like similar to what the support class has with the mortar, something where you can pull out and deploy like a stationary anti-vehicle / anti-infantry grenade launcher with ammunition that would address destroying vehicles and infantry. I don't know if you've seen what I'm talking about, but it kind of looks like this is a stationary mounted machine gun, but it's an automatic grenade launcher. And you would be able to shoot this thing, for a certain amount of rounds into, a corridor or an area. But you would be locked down in that area, and it could allow you to address, multiple enemies. Next thing, support. Let's say the first tiered rank for support would be like an enhanced 80mm mortar with like kind of a smart munition. It's like ball bearings, something like that. Let's say there's a limit of 5 mortars in this thing to where you could shoot just like your traditional mortar, because we all can agree that the mortar is really weak. At least it is from my perspective. It only does like 40 damage. But if you get to this point, maybe you could take out a couple enemies with this thing. It just does more damage over a little wider area. Again, balancing is very critical here. We don't want to be able to take out a whole squad of 10 people around a corner, with one of these things. But allowing you just to do more damage, essentially buffing the mortar for a certain amount of rounds. The next thing I would do in terms of the tier perk for support is allowing you to unlock an FMJ armor-piercing munition that allows you to shoot through light walls, light concrete walls, sheet metal, wood, anything like that without fault, because we know there's just no penetration with bullets in this game for the most part. And so that really would help out support class if you're bipoded up with an LMG, being able to shoot and do some real damage with those bullets, because an M60 round or whatever, that 7.62 or 308 round, it does a lot. It should have some penetration power. Finally, the support class tier, I would say, is a ground-based, kind of like an unmanned ground vehicle, a UGV, if you will. Kind of like, I don't know if you've seen the movie Law-Abiding Citizen, where that thing's rolling around. He's remotely controlling that thing with a 50 caliber machine gun. It even has like one little rocket launcher on it as well. But being able to drive that around, kind of like a UAV, but for support class, to be able to address ground infantry, that would be pretty cool. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and people would really want to play support class more. Finally, recon class. First unlock for recon, I would like to see similar to the mortar, where you can pull up a map and you select an area. Let's say you can pull up the mini map and say, I want an aerial vehicle to orbit this selected area and spot all targets in this area. So you would basically see the player throw out a UAV from his backpack. You'd see him throw it out, and this thing would fly to that area on the mini map. It would just expressly orbit over that for a set amount of time. Well, not could be shot down. I'm not sure, but that would allow it to spot all enemies. But you wouldn't have to control it. Is the point I'm getting at, and that would be really helpful, because then that would allow you to still free up your movement and run around. Next unlock would be the artillery strike, just like we had in Battlefield Bad Company 2. I think the recon class should have the ability to call in some kind of strike from range, because they keep their distance, and be able to attack vehicles and infantry. Kind of like a mortar strike, but again, they're not controlling it, so it shouldn't be really powerful, but allow them to enough to disperse enemies and make a vehicle move on. Final unlock I would like to see is a controlled UAV. The recon player would actually have to control this, but a drone in the air that has 2 anti-vehicle Hellfire missiles. And of course, these could be shot at infantry and do some damage to infantry as well. But the thing would just fly up in the battlefield. You have kind of a bird's eye view. Again, I think of a selected area similar to what we saw with the UAV flying over, orbiting over a certain area. And over that area, you could go into like a FLIR type vision, and you could be controlling this, and you could determine where to fire your Hellfire missiles. And just kind of like the UAV in Battlefield Bad Company 2, similar to that, but you're really not flying it because you're flying over an orbital area. It's similar to like Homefront. I don't know if you guys ever play that game, where the thing's orbiting the area and you're selecting where you want the strike to go, and or what vehicle to target. So that wraps up for those categories. I failed to mention the engineer. I think one thing we could add in there is the ability to unlock Stinger missiles as an enhanced attribute. That's certainly something maybe you can do in lieu of the track charge if you want to address air vehicles. You know, one of those two. So in summary, wild card. Again, it's not a point streak. Maybe you could argue it is. It's not like a kill streak. It's just taking your players' skill and just allowing them to have a little something to work towards. Again, I've said this before. Coming from Call of Duty myself, I want to have something to work for in my gameplay. This allows me to experience the game that much more productively. And then having an enhanced little skill, and you would still have, you know, control of your traditional equipment like your C4, control of your tugs, you know, stuff like that, you know, your medic kit, your SMAWs, you know, that would still be your default loadout, and I think they should bring that into Battlefield 4 because that's what makes the game what it is. But just giving it a little more enhanced experience to reward you for good gameplay. Let's say you get, you know, 10 kills, you get your final unlock, your flashbangs and assault, or 10 kills, you get your unmanned ground vehicle for support, or a combination of capturing a position, killing 3 guys, and, you know, resupplying a certain amount of people. All that combination of score, essentially, you could call it, it's a score streak, a battle streak, battle points, whatever you want to call them. But essentially, yes, it kind of takes from some of the ideas out there, but just because you're borrowing ideas from other people doesn't mean you're not bringing anything that's unique, that everybody's going to like. It's going to make everybody happy. So get out of this idea, this mindset that we can't incorporate other ideas from other games. No. Other games do it right. Your game does it right. Let's bring all the good ideas together and some unique ones, and we're going to have a masterpiece of a game called Battlefield 4. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry it was so long, but let me know what you want to see in the comments about that. And I hopefully will see you soon on my next video in early June. Thanks for watching.